Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and I'm sorry, the joke's been done before. It's not really original. If I truly wanted to commit, I'd get my Milkipliers out and I'd submerge myself in a record-breaking amount of fake blood, but number one, I don't have the confidence in myself, and number two, I don't have access to that. But I do have a large radiation ray. I suppose that could work. I'm not a masochist! Alright, hello everybody and welcome for realsies to this video. And what is this video? Well, I'm going to be talking about if YouTuber movies are good or not. Specifically, I'm mostly gonna be touching on Iron Lung, Obsession, and Backrooms. 3 movies that came out recently, and, well, you'll just have to wait and see my thoughts on them.
You're the first one down. All we have are surface scans, that's why you're there. Well, one of the reasons.
Alright, so first up on the list we have Iron Lung from 2026. All of the movies I mentioned are from 2026, but that's okay. So first thing I want to say right off the bat is that there will be spoilers for these movies, so if you care about that, you want to watch the movie first, please go ahead and do so. I put video chapters in, so if you don't want spoilers for Iron Lung, but you don't care about the other 2 movies, you can skip this, and vice versa. So do what you need to do. I'm just here to talk about movies. Ultimately, I don't feel like Iron Lung really needs much of a, I don't know, I don't think it needs to be explained, the plot, very much. Now, full disclosure, I have not watched Iron Lung in a while. I watched it twice in theaters when it originally released, but I have not rewatched it on its digital release, so I might not remember everything perfectly. The basic, very simple plot is that Mark plays a prisoner who is sent into a blood ocean in a submersive vehicle called the Iron Lung, and he is sent down there by people because the quiet rapture has happened, where all of the stars in the known universe have disappeared and they're trying to look for some sort of answer. So Mark goes down there, he's tasked with retrieving something. Basically, big creature shows up, things go awry, and that's the basic understanding of the movie, essentially. Now, the number one complaint that I saw come out of this movie, and it's not something that I'm totally disagreeing with. I'm not saying if you felt this way, you're wrong. I do not feel this way, but a lot of people said that the movie felt too long, or that it was a little slow, that it dragged on at points. I did not personally feel that way. I think maybe at a few moments here and there, it felt maybe just a smidge too long, but I didn't really care. I actually personally think that the slow pace of this movie works in its favor. The reason for that is because I feel like this movie is truly a great video game adaptation, not in that it copies everything directly. I mean, the inside of the ship and everything looks fucking basically perfect. But the difference between a video game and a movie, especially if we're talking horror, is that you really feel like you are the person when you're playing the game. Everything you do is a result of yourself, not necessarily the character you're playing as. You truly get immersed and you feel like you are part of the world. And in Iron Lung, I feel like the slow pace actually helps make that come to fruition. The way that you're left to sit in the Iron Lung with the prisoner and experience it all as if you are the character really adds to this level of immersion and makes you feel for him more, because don't get me wrong, he makes some kind of stupid decisions in this movie, but ultimately the fact that you're stuck there with him too, to me it makes it feel like those actions are more forgivable because you understand the weight of the blood ocean that is on him. And when you're left there and you have all these long lingering shots and empty silent moments, well, maybe not silent, but mostly primarily quiet, you kind of notice little things and you start to go, is that something I'm gonna have to worry about? And so your anxiety starts building up, which I imagine is what it's like for the character, where you are just like, oh, is the water dripping too much? Is that going to be a problem? Do I have to worry about the water dripping? And so in the back of your mind, while you're watching everything unfold, you start accumulating these things in your head and you go, in the back of my mind, I'm still worried about this thing. I'm still concerned that something bad is going to happen here, even as something bad is already happening. For me, it really started to pile up and it really added to the experience for me. For me, the actual main complaint that I had about the movie is that some of the audio is pretty hard to understand at times. Part of that was the theater that I was in. Like, I don't know if the audio mixing didn't like vibe with the actual theater setup or something, but there are genuinely times where they have voices that are being distorted because it's, I don't know, some terrible, horrible thing, or it's just through a speaker at the bottom of the fucking blood ocean. At times it was really, really hard to understand what the characters were saying. So I would just be like, I didn't quite catch that. Could you repeat that for me, please? And that comes in as a little bit of a detriment once the mystery starts being like unwrapped for you a little bit. I'm kind of picking up on it, but because I can't hear what they're saying fully, I feel like I'm missing bits and pieces. So that was the main complaint. Also, I want to make it clear that I am a fan of Markiplier, so I technically will be biased in favor of this movie, but I'm not the type of person to go, I really like this person. If they're in a movie that sucks, I'm going to say that the movie's still good. I still very much enjoyed this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. I think that there is some bias there, but ultimately I'm looking for a good movie at the end of the day, and I think that this is a good movie. To my credit, I think that one of the other weaker points of the movie for me was Mark's acting. He's not a bad actor, but there are a few moments here and there where it just doesn't fully land for me. And I don't know if that's because in my brain, I'm like, well, that's Markiplier. To name an example, there are several moments where he is like yelling angrily. And in my brain, I go, oh, it's like when he played Bennett Foddy getting over it. And he yelled. So I didn't fully think he was like the best actor. I think he was good, and that there were just a few moments here and there that didn't fully land for me. But also, like, I do think some of the other actors in this movie are better. Most of them are primarily voice roles, you know, like Elsie Lovelock, I believe is her name. They do really good as like voice roles, and also when you kind of see them on screen. But yeah, I guess also I want to talk on like the general side of this, which is that at the end of the day, this is cosmic horror. Cosmic horror is something that does not work for everyone. I love cosmic horror. I think it's so cool when you get to see something that is kind of just unknowable. You will never be able to fully comprehend it, and I think that's rad as hell, dude. So ultimately, even when the movie ended, specifically the first time I watched it, and I didn't quite understand what had happened, I still went, I don't care, because this is like such a big thing that is unknowable, and to me that's really scary. I do ultimately like where the movie goes. I like how it ends. I like the mystery that it kind of is sort of answers. I think that it's really cool, and I think that the writing on this movie is really well done. The directing is really well done. Both are things that Markiplier did. And I think the cinematography is great, like truly incredible stuff there. The score, also fantastic. I forgot to mention that. Ultimately, I think Iron Lung is great. If you haven't watched it and you needed someone to convince you, even though I spoiled some of it for you, I would highly recommend. You can rent it on YouTube now or buy it. But either way, it's time for the next movie.
I love you so much. A love only the branch of a willow tree could conjure.
All right, so now we're talking about Obsession from 2026. So this movie is made by Curry Barker, who is kind of like I've seen interviews where he kind of is like, I'm not really a YouTuber, but I think by all intents and purposes, he is a YouTuber in my brain. He kind of got big originally from sketch comedy and little horror shorts and short films on YouTube. So I'm going to say that he counts, especially for the concept of this video. And I actually just watched Obsession yesterday, so it is very fresh in my mind. And whoo, buddy, this movie absolutely deserves the hype that it has been getting. I think that it is incredible. So there's a lot of small details that I could get into, and I'm trying not to just talk about the movie plot for plot, but the basic rundown is there's this character named Bear. So Bear is this kind of, how do I want to describe Bear? I'm going to say he's pathetic and cowardly, not necessarily in the worst way ever originally. Basically, he has a crush on this girl named Nikki. She is his friend. They are part of a friend group. There's 4 of them. Theoretically, I'm pretty sure they're a little bit past college age, but like one of the characters, the other girl, is trying to get into art school because she wants to do something different. But yeah, basically Bear has a crush on Nikki. He's planning on asking her out. Well, he fails. He fails miserably. He ended up getting a present for her that he was going to give to her. But then again, because he failed, he doesn't do that. And it's a 1-wish willow. A willow stick that you break and then you get 1 wish. After miserably failing, he doesn't even ask her out. He just fails. After he fails miserably, he kind of is in like a, oh god, man, oh, woe is me. And he takes out the 1-wish willow and he goes, I wish Nikki would love me more than anybody on the planet. Snap. And surely nothing bad would happen from that, right? And then, well, a bad thing happens because the wish works. In the beginning of this movie, to give Bear some credit, because he turns out to be a terrible person, in this moment, he does not think that this is going to work. He's just kind of doing this. He's like, oh, fucking, I fucked up, man. I just wish you would love me. It's not like he ever expected this to work. He didn't think that it would work. He's just kind of upset. However, later in the movie, we see that he absolutely would have if he knew that it worked. But yeah, and then Nikki just starts acting real weird. She's fumbling around and doing weird shit. At one point, she goes to him in order to try and get him to like come into her house. She's like, I just feel so alone. My cat just died. And he's like, cat? Because his cat just died and she doesn't have a cat. And she goes, oh, I'm sorry. My dad is dying. It's been really hard. And I really don't want to be alone right now. And it's incredible the way that you see this version of Nikki kind of learn the ropes of reality and try to do anything in order to get him to be with her longer. On the outside, it looks as if she could be manipulating him in some way because she's lying about her dad having cancer in order to get him to stay with her. But again, this is all because Bear made a wish. It's not her fault that she is obsessed with him. But as the movie progresses, we see that Nikki continues to act not good. Bear talks to the guy friend. He's like, I don't know what's going on. She's acting weird. I feel like something mentally she's not doing great. Her dad's dying of cancer. And the friend is like, do you think she was on drugs? We kind of see things where it's like, even Bear is like, she's not mentally psychologically doing well, because at this point he doesn't think that the wish worked, but he's still kind of going forward with trying to like make a relationship happen with her. Characters will straight up say to Bear that it looks like he's taking advantage of her because she's unwell right now, and he just kind of is like, what? No, no, she's going through a hard time, and it's this whole thing. To me, the point where this movie snapped into my brain as like a really great movie is they do a little romantic montage where, you know, Bear and Nikki are doing cute little things, but you see little hints of her being like a little obsessed with him. It ends with him on a date with her in some restaurant. The guy friend calls him and he's basically like, hey, I checked it out. Nikki's dad does not have cancer. She's lying to you about that. And Bear has this flashback, very quick flashback, to him making the wish. Arguably, it happens later in the movie when he calls the company, but in my brain, this is where he kind of officially recognizes that the wish that he made actually did work and that none of this is real. It's all forced upon Nikki. He goes through this whole thing where he asks her, hey, be honest about your dad. Is he actually dying? And she freaks out in the restaurant and she goes, no, don't do that, and causes a scene. And he's like, no, it's fine, come back, it's fine. She's basically like, does it really matter either way? I forget what exactly happens to kind of conclude this, but again, it's kind of Bear realizing that the wish was real, and it jump cuts to him fucking her as she just is lying there motionless in bed, and her body's not moving or reacting at all. It's just her voice, and even you can see like a tear run down her face. And this is where the movie really cemented itself for me, because I went, oh, this is dark. Now Bear knows, and he's still just using her as a thing to get pleasure out of. So, you know, the movie continues. There's a bunch of great little moments here and there, like the whole eating cat thing. But at some point, Bear calls the company, and he's basically explained that it is real. And the person on the phone, who is Curry Barker in a little cameo, basically says, it sounds like you have a moral obligation to be with her. And then Bear asks if he can alter the wish. Again, another instance where you see that Bear is not a good guy. He doesn't want to totally get rid of anything. He doesn't want to free Nikki. He just wants to see if he can alter the wish. Right? So cool. And the guy's like, no. He's like, well, can I cancel the wish as his like secondary last option? And the guy's like, no, but you could sewer slide if you wanted to. And that sets up the ending of the movie. This is also the moment where we kind of get confirmed that Nikki is now two separate entities, basically. Original Nikki is still kind of stuck in the body somewhere. We've seen little moments where she kind of like bursts back into reality. Some of the best scares in the movie happen from this, like when they are kissing for the first time and she like backs up and she's like, what the fuck? And then like she snaps back into Wish Nikki. I know in one of the interviews, I forget her name, the actor who plays Nikki, who is an absolute standout, by the way. I want to give all the props to everyone in this movie is good, and I feel bad for everyone else because she is the standout by far. But the actress said in interviews that basically in the beginning, original Nikki snaps into reality every once in a while, but as things go on, she's kind of more aware of things and trying to break free somehow because she's really fighting. She's a strong character. So as the movie goes on, you are led to believe that real Nikki is aware of things going on, maybe not entirely at all times, but generally speaking is aware of things. She is no longer able to have autonomy, but Wish Nikki, despite all of the crazy, insane things that she does, is also one of the most tragic characters in this movie. She is forced to live this life where she is absolutely obsessed with this person, and he will never love her back to that same degree. It's basically hell for both of them. There's a scene in the movie where Bear is basically telling her, like, stop doing weird shit. I just want you to be like Nikki. Act like Nikki. And she's sobbing, she's crying, I can't be like Nikki. And then I think at the end of it, she apologizes and she goes, I'm sorry, I'll do my best. And it's heartbreaking because again, this version of Nikki was created for this, and she's being told to be someone else to appease this guy who doesn't even love her as much. Even by the end of it, we see that Bear is too much of a coward. He's too selfish. He can't do the thing with a gun, and then he eats some good yum yum medicine, and last second before he's about to be a coward again and like throw up, we hear the little wish jingle and we hear the willow stick snap, and Nikki has made a wish that he will love her more than anybody in the world. He goes out, stops attempting to throw up to be with her, and he dies in her arms. Wish Nikki is freaking out because that's the love of her life and she doesn't know what to do. Once he like fully dies, real Nikki surfaces again. She just kind of has this moment where she like has to take everything in, and then she just starts hysterically crying. Again, rightfully so. There are also 2 dead bodies in this room with them, and the credits roll as she cries. It's one of the best horror movies I've seen in a while. I love the messaging behind this. It seems like not necessarily every bit was intentional, but even if it wasn't, it's so cohesive that every little detail feels important. The music is pretty underrated. I think the music is good. The sound design is really good. Some of those scares are incredible, like insane jump scares in this movie. The cinematography is fantastic. Like I said, the acting is really good. There are funny moments in this movie, and I'd like to watch people talk about things after I've seen it. It seems like people get more comedy out of this than I personally did, which is not a problem, but to me this was way darker than it was funny. Like, there are a couple of funny moments here and there, but even in those moments I was like, this feels a little off right now. So the comedy didn't necessarily always work for me, but that's okay. I thought this was a great movie, but it's time for the next movie.
All these rooms, this place builds them. It's like a maze. It just goes on and on. Sometimes I'm scared I'll get lost.
All right, and now we have Backrooms from 2026. Yeah, like I said, they're all from this year. So Backrooms is the most recent movie out of all of these to come out. It is created, I think, written and directed by Kane Parsons, aka Kane Pixels on YouTube. This is something that I don't want to harp on too much because I'm sure he's tired of hearing it at literally every turn. Kane, I believe, was 19 when he made this movie. He is 20 now when it's releasing. I've seen discourse online that's like, there's no way a 20-year-old directed this movie. Like, there's no way. It's gotta be a ghost director or whatever. Guys, can we just accept that there are people that are talented and that have worked really fucking hard to get where they are? He taught himself Blender so that he could make the Backrooms series and whatever. He's been making videos since he was like 13, I think, which is pretty similar to me, but he's way more talented than I am, so fuck you, Kane. I'm just kidding. Can I have a cameo in your next project? Please? I know that'll never happen, but it would be really cool. But yeah, so I don't want to linger on Kane's age because he's just a talented, hardworking guy that really knows what he's doing. Age is not an indicator of talent or skill. You can be any of those things at really any age. Even at like 1 year old, you're pretty dang talented at pooping yourself, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, the Backrooms, to actually talk about the movie, again, not one that I really need to explain the plot of too much because the plot's fairly simple. There's 2 main characters. I forget what their names are because I'm really bad with names, but there's a guy who is an architect. He's working at a furniture store, a pirate-themed furniture store that is not doing well. He's been kicked out of his house by his wife. He's real angry and upset with that. He's the one paying for everything. He's paying for her to go to college to become a lawyer, I believe. It's one of those things where it's like, man is just upset that he's doing things that he willfully is doing. He could have at any point been like, listen, I really need help. If he could pick up a part-time job, if he'd put in any effort to communicate, things probably wouldn't be as bad as they are. Basically, he discovers the back rooms in his store, and he kind of loves it because he's an architect. He's fascinated by it. He also has a therapist who is the other main character. She has some really cool stuff going on, but to me it's kind of more background. It isn't necessarily like foreground things going on with her. At some point, the guy basically drags his 2 employees along to record the backrooms because he wants proof to show the therapist that he's not crazy. It's this whole terrifying sequence where they get dragged down and the monster theoretically kills both of them. He's kind of left there, and it's this great scene where he puts the camera down and he hears the girl employee talking from the other side of a wall, and she's like, "Can you break through this glass?" And he's like, "What glass?" It's like a one-way mirror type of thing or something. In the background, see something lift up the camera, and it's really fucking tall, and she goes, but behind you. And then the movie cuts to the therapist's point of view, and she gets a phone call from him saying that he opened the window or something and that he's never returning. And then she goes to look for him to basically do a mental check on him. She goes to the store, she finds the back rooms. He ends up choking her out and brings her to a little kitchen table little setup, and there are 3 personoid looking things. They are memories of people, and the guy kind of explains what he thinks is going on, which is that this place is memorizing everything or memorizing things, and the more that it remembers, the worse the details get, and the more they lose focus. Things from longer ago will be worse. They'll have less detail, because you see the back rooms is kind of built in layers. It seems to me that the deeper you go in the back rooms, the like more dangerous it gets. So I think that's another cool layer of things. Eventually the guy's memory, like the memory version of the guy, shows up. Real tall, scary looking pirate guy. He has a peg leg. He has this whole revelation with the therapist where he's like, "I like it down here. I don't want to change. I just want to stay here." And she goes, "All right, then fucking do that. And also untie me and let me free, you psycho." And he starts to untie her. When his memory shows up, it attacks him and kills him, and she makes a break for it. She ends up in a version of the guy's store, the furniture store, and there's one of these caveman standees that's repeating a message in different languages, which is something that we saw earlier that the guy found, and there was a security camera watching him. She ends up accidentally like knocking over the standee and breaking it, and that sets off a trap where they get gassed. It doesn't really work on the monster, but she sees like a exit that's through a really skinny corridor, and she goes through it, and she comes across the hazmat suit guys. They take her back out into like a facility, and then some guy sits down with her to ask her about what she experienced and how she got there. She basically is like, "What's gonna happen to me? Are you guys gonna let me free?" And the guy's like, "It's not really up to me." So if you could just tell me about things, that would be cool. She basically kind of zones out as his voice gets mumbled and you don't really hear it. And the movie ends with shots of things in the back rooms that are memories of things that represent the people that we have seen and that have died. And then we see the memory version of the therapist, which I take to mean that she probably died. I think that she probably is not allowed freedom after this, and either they kill her or they force her to stay and, I don't know, do research for them or something. But this is a great movie. I absolutely love how it looks. I think that the visual identity of this movie is insane. The score is also surprisingly good. It's kind of like a synthy, kind of like a dream state type of sound that it has. It's interesting because I watched an interview that Kane did where he basically was like, "I don't like to rely too much on symbolism," which kind of threw me off a little bit because I've I felt like there was so much juicy symbolism in this movie. So maybe that was just my interpretation of it and not necessarily his intent. But the way that I kind of looked at this is that it's kind of talking about how it can be bad to hold on to things too preciously or too long. Sometimes it's not a good idea to like hold on to memories too much. The whole idea of the Backrooms is that it is basically memorizing things, and we see that the deeper you go, the longer that these memories are present, the more they start to crumble, the more dangerous potentially they get. We see that the furniture store guy, he wants to stay there. He enjoys being there, stuck in his quote unquote memories. And ultimately, what kills him is the memory of himself. And then the girl, the therapist, she has this recurring imagery and things that's happening, which is really fucking cool, by the way, where her childhood home is being demolished. She has a keepsake of when she put her like handprint in like the driveway. At the end of the movie, she uses it to fight off the memory of the pirate guy, and it breaks. So using the memory is like not to be too precious with it. It breaks. It's gone now forever. So yeah, I just think that this is a very cool movie. I think that for some people, maybe even most people, the ending will be fairly abrupt because there isn't like too much of a payout in terms of like questions being answered. Once we got to the interview, I was like, this is where the movie's going to end. I don't know if that's just because I've watched a lot of movies and I just kind of know these types of things. And I think that some people will be disappointed because not too much gets explained, but it didn't really disappoint me because I think that there's so much behind the scenes, like written in between the lines to kind of think about. This is a scary movie, but to me, it's actually almost better as like a psychological think piece, so to speak. But this movie I deeply thoroughly enjoyed. I think it's very well made, and I think that's it. And I think it's time for me to rank the movies. Okay, so typically with videos like these, I decide to rank the movies at the end. I gotta be honest, this is the hardest one I've had to do in like ever, actually. I think all of these movies are so good for their own rights and regards, and I'm just gonna have to do it based off of me personally and what I think is just my favorites of them. So in third place, which is by far not last place, these are like top 3 horror movies of the year. I think realistically, it should be Iron Lung in third place, but I'm not gonna do that. I am going to pick Obsession for third place. And I think that is crazy, and Obsession should rightfully be in first place. But for me personally, I think Obsession is third. It's not a movie that I would necessarily want to go back and watch several times. Like, I feel like I got it the first time, and like, it's not really a vibe movie, and sometimes vibe movies are ones that hang higher on my list because it's something that I find myself thinking back on, being like, oh man, just the general vibes of this was so good, you know? In second place, I'm going to say Backrooms. I think ultimately Backrooms probably should be second out of these 3, but this is one of those movies that has big must-use brain to think about type of stuff going on, and to me, that's a movie that is more something that I will think about, say 5 years from now, right? If I'm looking at all horror movies I've ever seen, I'm gonna go, oh yeah, The Backrooms. That's one that I think about because it just has such a cool, deep, underlying story. What does it make me think about? So it kind of has like a personal thing that I can go back to about. I genuinely want them to make more, which is not something I say about horror movies very often. Like, if Backrooms got a sequel or 2, I'd be very happy. And then in first place, that means I'm putting Iron Lung, which again, I don't think is the best movie out of these 3. But for me personally, it's the one that I vibed with the most. the most. It's something that I genuinely just love so much. I think the score does a lot for this, but also, again, it felt like an actual video game adaptation to me, where I felt like I was there. The stakes were higher for me. It's visually very, very stunning. Something about it is something that I'm going to continue to think about. It's like when I watched Ring, the Japanese version, and I originally was kind of like, yeah, it's a good movie. But then as time went on, my brain just kind of kept thinking back on that and going, wow, that was so cool. Just every little bit of it, every little like juicy drop of identity and vibes that came out of it is something that I fuck with. Now, maybe things will change as time progresses and I continue thinking about Backrooms or Obsession more, but ultimately, again, I think all three of these are great movies and you should absolutely watch all three of them. And hey, you know, my official verdict, YouTuber movies are actually pretty good. I haven't seen all YouTuber movies, but one that I didn't talk about is Talk to Me, and I fucking loved that movie. But anyway, it's time to end this video. So thank you all so much for watching. If you liked, please like and subscribe. It means a lot to me, and I love having you here. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!